Hey, welcome back to another episode of Building Wealth with Real Estate. I'm the host, Cameron Ripley. I'm the broker owner of Vision Forward Realty and Purpose Home Loans in the greater Sacramento area. So today we're going to really be talking about the last deal that I wanted to look at from starting with a couple episodes ago. You buy your first multifamily property, two houses on one lot at $379,000. You either live in one side and rent out the other, or you're a first-time investor or whatever it might be, and you put down a down payment, bought that property, scaled it up from there to a duplex, to a larger duplex, to a quadplex, and then to a 6-unit apartment building that we talked about last time. Building that up, that 6-unit apartment building, depending on how quickly there are vacancies and turnovers and how quickly you can get in and renovate each unit. If you were to really scale up from there, that could be a 2 to 3 year time period where you're then able to do a 1031 exchange to the next property. That seems pretty close to a flip to me, but you're working with greater numbers. So that property started at $1,250,000. From your starting increased value at that first investment property, you increased and you did a 1031 exchange from property to property to property. Or if you met with a mortgage professional, don't get too over leveraged, right? That means you owe a lot. And so it's very risky if you have too many vacancy rates. Or you did a second mortgage from property to property. I'd be very careful with that. I'm very honest with my clients who look to do that. It's obviously more commission for me because it's more loans, but it has to make sense. I try to tell people, and your decision's your decision, whatever you want to do, I'm game for, but you want to get to 6 or more units total in your portfolio before I would say start doing that. The reason why is the more vacancies you have, the riskier it gets. You lose your job, you have a bunch of vacancies. It's hard to handle, the payment on a couple duplexes if you also have a second mortgage. So I would get to a point where you have at least 6 units total. And there's a way that we can mitigate that risk based off average and market vacancy rates. And so if I took, let's just say it was 70%. If I took your whole portfolio, let's say you're making $200,000, I do 70% of that. Is your monthly debt liabilities equal to or greater than that, or is it equal to or less than that? And that's how we can really evaluate whether you're being overly leveraged or not. That might sound super confusing. I think if you put yourself in the shoes of, okay, I own 2 duplexes, I've got a second mortgage on one because I use that as my down payment on the second one. Okay, I'm making, let's just say $10,000 a month. Let's just say 10,000. Why not? I'm killing it with my 2 duplexes. I add that up. That's 120,000 a year. Oh God, divided by, multiply it by 70%, whatever number that is. I'm not going to do it off the top of my head. I'm trying to right now, but it's okay. If my monthly debts are greater than that 70%, that means that if I have too much vacancy rates, I'm getting to a position where I got to make sure that my job and my current income can handle that. And I wouldn't recommend putting yourself in that position. I would wait until you can mitigate that risk with more units. So the more units you have, the greater likelihood it is that I can start doing things like a second mortgage from one property to another. That way, I have this 6-unit apartment building. It's cash flowing great. I don't want to get rid of it necessarily. Maybe I am able to do a second mortgage and use that equity as a down payment on my next property. So moving on to the next property, whichever option you choose, this property is listed at, the number is a little weird to me because it is a 10-unit complex. But it's 704 to 712 20th Street in Sacramento. I do apologize. I did not write down who the listing agent is, but you can see it in the show notes. This property is listed at $2,600,000. Sounds like a lot, but from that previous property, I think it's very practical in the next 2 to 3 years with you increasing the value by renovating each unit, increasing the rents. You can easily get to a down payment of, because remember, our last property, we had $250,000 or more to put down on that property. So I'm essentially trying to more than double that, but it's definitely practical to get to a point where I have $520,000 down, right? 20% down Obviously, this is all dependent on credit score and a few other factors. But yeah, I put $520,000 down. It's a 20% down payment. I'm not going to say whether that is the price you should go for or not. It really just depends on, how long the property's been on the market, if they have any competition. It's being offered at a 5.88 cap rate, which is a little bit low for where interest rates are at. But this all depends. I really have to break down the numbers and make sure that it makes sense. But it is bringing in $152,880 per year. So for most people watching this, this is for sure starting to replace a lot of your income. If you're a higher income earner, this is where you can start to get to a point where this property and the last property, you're looking at replacing your income. Right. So for 10 units, that's $1,750 per unit. That's pretty accurate with where rates are at, depending on the condition. If you wanted to try to make this more of a luxury place, like a lot of our offerings, once again, we do not have an offering going on right now. This is not an offering at all. But for a lot of our offerings, we look at making places and we look for opportunity where it's not luxury living, but it's getting pretty close to, more luxury living, because there's a lot of markets that support that. Unfortunately, I feel in the greater Sacramento area, we just don't have a lot of those opportunities where, I could just be someone who wants to have a luxury apartment in the area. It's nice. It's well renovated. I'll pay more. I would try to get to a point where, especially if this is pretty close to downtown, where I'm getting $2,100 per unit, or 22 or 23, and still increasing the rents 3% every single year on top of that. This is how we really grow our wealth. With increasing rents, you want to get to a point where you don't necessarily have to be really dramatic with increasing rents. The more units you get like this, it depends if you're trying to scale up to the next big project. But what you also have to look at is where are market rates at. Also, are you getting to a point where you'd rather have less vacancies? So if this was an apartment building, which it's not, that was fully renovated already, and I'm just trying to live off the cash flow and just slowly increase rents, maybe the market says that I should increase rents by 3%. I might just do it by 2% because I want to have less vacancy rates, because I want that cash flow to come in, not necessarily just a dramatic increase in value all the time. Because after a 10-year period, then I might want to come in and renovate everything and then increase the values from there. So there's so many strategies we can take depending on what you're looking to do. If you're someone who just says, I am looking to retire, I want to leave a nest egg for generational wealth, but I want to make sure my income is consistent, then I'm going to look at something like this and say, okay, this is now a certain amount of units where with vacancy rates, you're going to still have a good cash flow coming in. Let's not get too aggressive with increasing rents right away, because we want to have less vacancy. Versus you have someone else who says, okay, well, I want to scale up even bigger from this and produce even more wealth and more ongoing income. Okay, well, we can be a little bit more aggressive with increasing rates, rental rates, because we're looking to, do some renovations, put it back on the rental market at a higher value than where it was, because there's been an increase in value and it's easier for people to justify whatever it might be, and we can scale up from there. So thank you all for listening to all these episodes this week. Next week, we're going to do another deep dive into other properties that are on the market. Once again, if you have any questions, please feel free to email us at info@visionforwardrealty.com or info@purposehomeloans.com. Once again, DRE license number 02210-348, Purpose Home Loans, NMLS 2504166. Always equal housing opportunity for everything, because no matter who you are, what you are, whatever it might be, you deserve to build wealth with real estate. So see you on next week's video series and episode series, where we start over again and we build the wealth, but we'll look at an even bigger project after that. So talk to you all soon.